Okay, now we're in the rendering code, and basically there's three parts to this. There's global setup stuff, and then there's per update setup or per update stuff, and then there's per particle stuff. And it's fairly important to put what you can in the update, because if, for example, if you have 100,000 particles, anything that goes in batch update will run once per frame. Anything that goes in particle update or particle draw will run 100,000 times per frame. So, where you can, you want to keep stuff, generically at the batch level. But of course, you don't want to keep it all there because then your effect will be very boring. So particle effect is actually a base class. You set up your stuff in effect setup. That happens once per particle, or once per particle begin, or particle effect begin. And then your batch update, this runs every update. And that's where you set, your global things. For example, if all your alpha, 50% through the lifespan of your particle, if all your alpha is supposed to be 50%, set it there. The next one it's 60%, the next 70%, set it there. But if each individual particle's alpha is supposed to change, then you can set that either in batch draw or in particle draw. And batch draw is it's where you kind of have, for example, we reinitialize our random seed here, and then we do, our loop between for all the particles, and then in there we set the last four particles, or the last four random numbers always to be available in R0 to R3. Okay, this is an abstract class. To actually instantiate it, you're going to have to make a subclass of it. And you can see I've overridden here the batch update, which is a key one. Or if our effect setup, we're just saying there's four textures. When we initialize it, we're saying that it goes from 0 to 1 RT, and then there's going to be 60 steps till the particle dies. That can be either a time or a step count. We're just using step count here. Okay, in our batch update, we're adjusting the alpha, so that's just a linear equation, and you might recognize these easing linear and ease in cubic and that kind of stuff from Robert Pennert's work in Flash. That is super excellent, used universally all over the place in Flash, and I'm sure in many other places now. He has an excellent book that goes with that. Highly recommended. He's also local to this area. He actually, I believe, grew up about 16 miles from here, and maybe he can come and visit me one day when he's back in Manitoba. Okay. Another interesting thing we're doing on the update here is we're actually adjusting the particle count on the fly. Now, normally you'll have 10,000 particles, and some will have expired, some will still be live, so you have an array or something of those, and you go through the array and you clean out the expired ones, and the array adjusts, or you maybe set them to null and deal with null. But here there's actually no particles stored, there's just the random seed stored, so you can just adjust the particle count at will. One pass it could be 1,000 particles, next pass it could be 20 particles. Doesn't matter, 0 particles, whatever. And then it'll just iterate from 0 to however many particles you have and create particles like that. We can run this and actually do a little demonstration of that, because it is actually one of the cooler things about this, where you can get a lot of effects that you don't normally see really easily. Okay, I'm just starting the game up here. I'll bring it onto the screen. But here's our particle effect now running with 0 to 20, and I'll just hit a breakpoint here, and we can adjust this particle count, for example, to always be 5 particles. Or actually, you know what, let's always do 2 particles. Okay, save it, remove the breakpoint, F5, and now we're back, and you can see there's a number of particle effects. Like there's a particle group which we'll get into, but each particle effect here has only 2 particles in it. Alright, let's go back into the code here and break, and we'll switch that back to whatever it was we had here. Okay, and let's go down to the individual particles here. Here we're calculating a direction. We have a rotation speed for all the particles, and we have a length away from the center, and we have a scale. Here, for example, we can move the scale up again to, I believe we had 8 before. Let's just try that. But this is also on a bouncing equation now, so we're come in. Of course, when it's this big, it doesn't look super fine. But maybe if you're really on fire or something. But again, you can do any of these effects you want. You can set that back. You could set x to be y to be x, but we could also set y to be 0.5. That's fine. And now we'll get kind of angled kind of creepier looking flat textures here. But as you can see, it's very easy to get different effects, and you can sort of plan them, and you can sort of just say, hey, that's what I meant. All right. That's essentially it for our particle engine here. Thanks for listening, and hope you'll tune in to our next in this series. Thanks.